Well, isn't that the flow of cash becomes scarce? Do we seriously need to continue being nice to her? No, now we don't have to play the pleasing game. In fact, we don't have to charm our parents either. We're finally free to break away from them. Why pretend to like a penniless mother-in-law? It will generate a ton of problems, am I right? I don't want to be harassed for money or to be financially responsible for anyone who can't earn a living for himself or herself. It is best to stop this right now. I am feeling what you are feeling. So then we're setting the inheritance at $60,000, right? And we agree that this money is the exit ticket from our family's life, right? That's excellent. The separation money. Mom, why are you ignoring us? They continued. Oh, right, we're estranged, so I shouldn't be calling you Mom, should I? They said, peppering me with insults like homeless hack in the apartment brown. I became angry with his manners. I excited my bread. You continue to throw around homeless, but who genuinely has nowhere to live, not really homeless. I have a rooftop over my head. I pointed to the premises. That house. I hope you both recall my departure ceremony. That's how I told my tales to my son and his wife only. They were stunned. Still, it was too late for them to reconsider running me out. I'm Mary. I'm 60 years old. I'm the home's wife. My husband is 67 years old. He is still employed. He left his corporate position approximately 20 years ago to start his IT business. We have big data and data sciences. Still, he's somewhat frumpy to run his technology business, too. My wife relies on Robert's retirement achievement and meme inheritance. He has one son, Eric, but he isn't on his father's path. No, he's establishing his personal private life. When my husband quit, Robert turned down the corporation, but he didn't assume the lead role in the enterprise. Not all brands. He has his commercial job at the university, far from home. I was hoping they'd inherit Robert's trade, but I didn't want how they'd perform. I won't force him. Let him do what he wants. I told Robert that day when Eric made his choice. Robert seemed to be repeating the same words and nudging Eric onto carving his own way, but it was clear that he was disappointed when he saw him. I just couldn't recognize it back then. Everything seemed to be perfectly fine with me, but when he found a job, we barely got in touch. Christmas became just a phone call, and for a few years now, it even ceased to exist. I kept saying to myself that it's how men should be as long as he is all right? But I really wanted more. Then, a few weeks before Christmas, I got a call from him. It's kinda unusual for you to call outside Christmas, I admitted. I have something to tell you. I'm coming home soon, he announced. What's the news? I inquired cheerfully. I'm getting married. I want you to meet her, he said. For me, just getting a call was already beyond good, not to mention his statement, and Robert even turned to me when I exclaimed so loudly. A month later, Eric plans to bring his fiancée home. 3 weeks seemed like forever, but after Eric had called, I could not help but remind Robert of what was to come the next day. Robert seemed to have got enough of it, but I could not contain my excitement. Else, I was just looking forward to Eric's marriage. Well, your father operates a large company, so, Ashley added with a hint of embarrassment on her face. Hey, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Not all of us notch flashy stuff, I said, spreading a chuckle with Robert. Although father operates one of the large companies, our home is not spacious, and we don't consume lavish brands or eat expensive food every day. Oh, sorry. I babbled a strange thing. Ashley apologized after sensing her blushing face. Told you, you mostly don't have to be anxious, Eric said with an awkward laugh. You know, my father isn't too uptight about rules and standards. With Eric's chuckle, Ashley eased and our conversation went on smoothly. Despite her childish face, Ashley was 27 years old, which was nearly mature in the conversation. I was harsh on Eric, who wasn't even married despite 30, but I was relieved to have Ashley. After 3 months, they tied the knot and I got truly excited. I also got a cool mom feel. Hello. Hi, Mom. Is everything fine this way? Eric called me with a she voice one day. Oh, yeah. Everything's fine. Just take care of yourselves, I said, feeling assured with his truncated emotional. After being married, Eric usually called me once a month. Maybe Ashley encouraged most of these calls, since he didn't even call me occasionally before. Though Eric shortened conversations with just some physical health questions, I cherished all calls, but always wanted to hear a bit more about his work or marriage life. The first Christmas they visited as a couple, Ashley and Eric, came to see us. I even made a homemade feast to properly welcome them with destined Christmas dinner. However, Ashley was acting quite weird. Is there something Ashley doesn't like to eat? Feeling somehow unnatural, I asked her. Ashley suddenly froze, and I could notice a brief shadow pass through her face. No, I can eat all of it. Thank you, though, Ashley smiled, but her face didn't fully match her response. When Ashley faced all the dishes I cooked for Christmas dinner, she barely grabbed for herself. That made me suspect that something closed for her to eat. Nervous if I might have offended her, I began to monitor her with side views. I didn't say much this evening, fully focused on Ashley, although Robert, Eric, and Ashley kept on chatting. When they were about to leave, Eric gets too close to my ear and whispered that the rest couldn't hear. Mom, these traditional dinners and Christmas are no longer cool. There is no. It can't be, right? Nothing old-fashioned have traditional Christmas dinner. I was in disbelief with Eric's statement. It's not about the dish being old-fashioned, but this plate you cooked was, in fact, was somewhat ended more trendily, he added. I guess Ashley was expecting something less judgmental, he finished, baffling it. Really, I guess I have been out of the loop for the latest Christmas dinner trends. I am sorry, I did not know I had to apologize for making Christmas dinner, I said in the most silent of voices. I guess that despite her and other people's view of me, my times have changed. In a hushed tone, I found myself apologizing to Eric. A month after the incident, his once-a-month calls turned into once every 2 or 3 months. My desperate attempt was that I had made the Christmas dinner, and she must have felt upset. Don't worry about the Christmas dinner. I do not see why Ashley would get upset over that. Eric must be busy with work, and I think that the monthly calls may have been too much for him. Even once every 3 months is good, right? Robert said. It was uplifting, but a dark weight still lingered over me. It was as if a cloud was hanging over me, catching every form of trouble on the way. Half a year later, Robert became ill. I cannot work anymore. This may be a good job to retire, he said with what was barely a smile. After over 3 decades of our lives together, I knew him too well. His attempt to rationalize his forced retirement behind a smile could not erase the frustration that he must have been feeling. We therefore informed Eric about Robert's condition. His response, "What? Dad is sick. I will come sometime." Robert's health continued to decline, and just like that, the once a 3 months calls ceased. They even refused to come home during Christmas. 3 years later, Robert's health hit 0. So Dad is gone, huh? I mean, he was over 70 and he managed a successful business. I guess he can proudly leave? Eric responded nonchalantly. He attended the funeral all right, but as soon as they were done, both he and Ashley took off while laughing as they drove off. Naturally, my sorrow quickly changed to anger, but it did not take long before sorrow took over. I had many things to do, including filling out paperwork and deciding what to keep or throw away. I was stuck. A month later, my mind was racing, trying to figure out the reasons for the unexpected visit. Let's go this way. This is Dad's old workspace, I hurriedly answered, hoping this might make things clear. I swung the door open, and Eric and Ashley stormed through without even saying hello as we headed to Robert's former office. I remained standing in the doorway. I stumbled to them. "What are you doing here?" I asked, fearing that the answer was exactly what I thought, although I was fervently hoping that it was not. "It's time to talk about the inheritance. I can see this piggy bank here really got things going, right?" Eric responded with a cruel sarcasm, and my heart beat. When I saw their predatory eyes, my heart sank, realizing that my suspicions were well grounded. I watched them shuffle through the drawers, almost as if they were thieving. Finally, Eric said, "I found it," as he pulled something out of the drawer. "This?" Ashley asked and rushed over. They looked at the envelope with bated breath, but quickly scowled in disappointment. "What is it? There's barely anything here," Eric sighed in annoyance. "Oh, heck, taking into account all those expenses, there was no much money left," he tried to explain. I realized that I could have missed Robert's old money, but I did not understand their idiocy. At that moment, I did not know how to react, how to answer. "Mom, you had a good life, but in the end, it was." Eric's phrase brought me back to reality. I noticed that Eric and Ashley exchanged some sly smiles, but I did not understand the reason. I forced myself to ask Eric, still slightly afraid of him laughing at me, "What do you mean?" "That was sarcasm," Ashley told me. Eric explained, "Mom, you know that Robert's company got merged with another one right after he got sick, right?" "Yes, that means that it did not work as it should have, and it lost money. That's why it got merged," Ashley hinted. What are you talking about?" I asked, shamefacedly. "If Dad ran a nearly bankrupt company, there would not be much money, right?" "That is true, but it is still." I tried to argue but failed. "Wait, what do you mean by all this?" "I heard that many other heirs got a good fortune after their father's death. So I never bothered to join the company and search for a job." Eric breezed off. "You know, taking the shortest path, one that required the least effort. Well, things didn't quite work out the way I had hoped. Despite my smarmy attitude and willingness to go along with you, sweetness and all, every time Eric called you, I continued to go through Christmas dinners, realizing that Tony wasn't the stern father figure I needed to impress. Well, when we heard that Bob had given away the company, I knew we were doomed for eternal mediocrity. Oh well, no more sudden and unrealistic dreams of becoming godly individual with a pile of money we could toss onto the fire. Honestly, I was crushed, but still on some level, I thought there was at least around 200 grand still waiting for us in a savings passbook. Well, God damn it. Take a look at this. There's over 60,000 left. Jesus, really? Does it take that much to shut down a company? Well, I guess we'll just have to take the 60,000 and go then." Eric and Ashley sighed, and I snapped. I was furious. I wanted to scream and shout right at them, but I bit my tongue. Very hardy. "What, mother-in-law? Is your impeach red, or were you drinking out of a martini glass again?" Eric sneered, a very audible scoffing noise following. "Yeah, because that's it, right? We've given up on getting money from around here, huh?" Ashley said with a similar level of disdain. "The mother-in-law of the marriage, the one who ruined our prospects in the future. Well, congratulations. We sever ties with you. This house is empty. Enjoy not having a kid to raise for yourself. Quit lying to yourself. We both know Bob's not saving you with money that we stole from him. Congratulations. We've exited the adult/dependent negotiations. Here's the 60,000. It's all you get out of it. Congratulations on your inheritance. Farewell. Got anything else around here? Go ahead, take it. I don't want this housing. I don't want to have to deal with any excess finances. We are comfortable with 60,000. I don't want to have anything to do with anything else," I replied. With that, Eric and Ashley walked out. Their laughter echoed all throughout this house. I hated it. I did. to want to give them any of the money in the house, even though 60 grand was quite a sum. They would regret it. I knew that for a fact. 2 years later, and I'm sending Allie around the commons in the center of town. Every step I took was a weight on my body, no martini glass in my hand or my mouth. Pretty soon, I sat down on a bench, taking out a sandwich. Pigeons started to gather all around my bench, grumbling quietly. I took out the bread from my sandwich and broke pieces off, tossing at them. After a time, I was surrounded by a bird. Couldn't help and feel a twinge of peace, a moment of solace in this chaos. But no sooner had feelings of calm replaced the panic than a familiar voice broke the silence. "Mary, is that you?" called Eric and Ashley. "Oh, isn't that lovely? Mary is feeding the pigeons." Eric's mocking voice reached me. "And not actually feeding the pigeons," I muttered. "How pathetic," Ashley remarked. "Ah, and as Scrooge-like as ever. No wonder you can't afford anything, considering we took all your money." Ashley sneers at me. "So, does that make you homeless now? How's the hobo life?" I wanted to say something, but the wave of disbelief and confusion left me speechless. My anger had spent itself, and without it whirring in my head, I just gave a little sigh and continued with my meal. They kept trying to talk to me anyway. "Mom, why are you ignoring us?" Jessica asks me. "Oh, no need. We're estranged," I replied back to her. Jessica and Eric seemed to be enjoying my silence. "Well, then I guess I can't call you Mom and more, can I? How about Hobochrome then?" Eric smiles. "Hobochrome, I like it." Jessica laughs with him. Being quiet was pleasant to them. It seemed like it gave them the right to say whatever they wanted. After I finished the sandwich, it was time to correct the record. "You are already saying something about me being homeless, and who are you talking about? I'm not homeless. I live over there." I pointed straight to a tall building visible far away. Eric and Ashley hung their heads, slowly following my gaze from derision to incredulity. That building, I pointed to, looked small, but actually it was a luxury tower condo. Although I felt initially that renting out such a luxurious condo was a bit much. Unit living, wide room gate for elderly, 24-hour care staff, and exterior visits gave me the impression that I am in a good and safe place. "Talk big. A homeless hag like you cannot afford that, right?" Eric said. His words were full of disbelief. I would calmly respond with a smile. Actually, it was one of the condos that Robert left behind. Their eyes burned wide. "What does this mean?" 5-tower condos of Robert. He seems very shocked to hear that. "I live in one building and own the rest so that I have rental income. So I'm not struggling with my cost of living." "Ha ha ha, what big lie is that?" Ashley laughed confidently, but I wasn't discouraged. I took my bag and found the document about the tower. My docs were in the bag as they were related to the current ER&D work. Ashley and Eric were reluctant at first, but after seeing the documents slide down their faces, their skeptical faces melted away and astonishment settled on their faces. "Why did Dad have that much money?" "Although you two told me Robert's business was full of debt and a total loss, it was properly sold," I explained. "One of his living earners acquired a tower, and I rented it out. He turned to one of my investments and left it to me. He used the money to build it he earned from the sale of the company. He left some in my inheritance because he had to retire." Ashley and Eric sat down, appalled that they would receive only $60,000 while living in a tower condo. I remembered Eric say something about owning 5 whole buildings, and the building of the tower condos built exceeded value $10 billion each building, and 5 buildings means hundreds of billions. Even if such a large corporation was lucky, it wouldn't have been procured easily. Let me clarify, I'm not the owner of an entire building. I'm a part owner. When I say 5 buildings, I own the units in 5 different buildings. Oh, and by the way, do not misunderstand, Owning the units in 5 buildings is major. Each unit Robert bought is worth over $10 million. Owning 6 units means over $60 million. That idiot poured nearly all the money he made selling his company in those. Of course he had fun buying them. It was his last big purchase in his life. If you have so many, why can't you spare one for us, please? Eric begs. Yeah, managing all those by yourself must be a load. We can help, right? Ashley adds in her attempt to play nice and push the bad cop to the background. When they learned I was the owner of the tower condos, their demeanor changed. Their words became cautious. A small dose of fear enters their speech, as if they were trying to test the water. I was not willing to buy their performance, though. I didn't want them to act nice. The need for estranged family members to suddenly think about you is strange. But wait a minute. Even if we're not talking anymore, we're still family, right? That means when you're gone, the properties will automatically be mine, right? Eric pushed, a smug grin creeping on his face. Is that it? You just want these old lady stuff? Ashley adds as she makes the smirk, mirroring Eric's. I was not willing to give Robert's precious legacy to such brats. It's almost a conversation, I replied defiantly. It is meaningless to give a plan to inherit property that will someday be disposed of. It'll be troublesome, so only this preparation. Naturally, I cannot do anything if I want to inherit my child. That's why I'll get rid of it. What do you mean? Eric asked with a slight perplexity to ask again. Are you going to lose it? I replied, please consult with Robert's friends. Robert's friends is the name of Robert's acquaintances. Among them, I lived in one of the 6 apartment buildings, and the remaining 5 married and operated one business each. No couple is likely to leave the premises until they go to the room where Robert is now. Therefore, I will. It won't be vacant. I will entrust the 2 to Eric and Ashley, who is rather an official, as it was. Besides, there is a rent of 6 buildings, always collecting a small amount by accumulating an inheritance that supports their spirit and arms, as Robert was robbed. I donated to Robert's company. A little money, but it's natural. I have already given Eric and Ashley $6 million. When I said I had nothing to leave behind, Eric's power was gone and fell to the ground. $60,000 is not worth anything in front of Eric, but practically difficult, because it works for more than $60,000. If you regret it only for this, you cannot help it. Well, I'm off to get my feet in the grass. Goodbye, bizarre strangers, I declared, bouncing away from the park with a narration in my step. As Eric was frustrated by the loss of the 2 properties, he impulsively bought a small condominium tower block. Unfortunately, Eric's lack of management skills means that building has high vacancies. Thus, the business is still losing money. Eric emptied his savings trying to make ends meet and replenish the building to continue running. Now he's addicted to loans and has to repay his debts by selling his condominium tower block. If he couldn't find a buyer, he'd have to level the building himself to offer the land as a vacant lot, adding an additional financial burden. In contrast, I continue to live in the state-of-the-art tower I purchased from Robert. I live in a barrier-free apartment, and individuals who owe Robert care for me. I don't have feelings of loneliness that some elderly people have when they live alone. The day was bright, and I might stroll through the park more leisurely. I contemplated it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe my channel for more stories.